I'll wait till. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Public Utilities for the City of Santa Rosa to order. If we may have a roll call, please.
Yeah, you bet.
Board Member Wright.
Here.
Board Member Mullen.
Here.
Board Member DeWitt.
Here.
Board Member Bartholow is absent. Board Member Badenfort.
Here.
Vice Chair Arnone.
Here.
And Chair Galvin.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all board members are present with the exception of Board Member Bartholow.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. Any statements of abstention by board members? All right. We will move right ahead then to our study session. Acting Director Schiavone.
Thank you, Chair Galvin. I would like to introduce item 4.1, the Help to Others program update, our only study session today. Kevin Buchanan, our Budget and Financial Analysis Manager, will be presenting.
Welcome, Mr. Buchanan.
All right, thank you, Chair Galvin and the board. As it was just said, my name is Kevin Buchanan, I'm the Budget and Financial Analysis Manager with the Water Department, and I'm here to give an update on our Help to Others program. Just to kind of refresh everyone's mind on this, the Help to Others program is our bill assistance program that we offer to low-income qualifying residents. The program pays 100% of the fixed water and fixed sewer charges, which for a typical account is about $45 a month. People in the program have to pay their full water and sewer charges that are incurred through the usage half of their bill. And we've been accepting applications to try to exhaust all the funds. And I'll get into explaining about the wait list that we've been maintaining for a little while now. Just another kind of refresher here, just to remember how all the requirements of this program work. Once we have verified that people meet the eligibility requirements, they go through a water use efficiency audit. They need to make sure that their bills are paid on time. We have a partnership with Sonoma Can, who does a financial workshop class. There is part of the income eligibility screening, and I've listed what some of the income levels are there. People have to have the bill in their own name, and there's a reapplication process annually. So this program has been around for about 10 years. It started in 2014. City Council and BPU were interested in finding a way to help people who pay their water bill. There's a lot of restrictions, though, because Prop 218 says that a local government cannot use rate revenue to subsidize someone else's bill. So the way we work this out is there are some telecom companies that are leasing antennas on water property, and those lease rentals we use to subsidize people's water bills. When this program first got started in 2016, we were offering a 50% subsidy for the fixed charges, and we had partnered with Sonoma Can from the beginning because they were handling the program intake portion of this program. For the first couple of years, enrollment stayed pretty low, and I have a bar graph that will make this clearer in a moment. But in 2019, staff decided to increase the subsidy up to 100% to help incentivize maybe more people to take advantage of the program. It became obvious in 2024 that we were on a path where we were going to run out of money on this program because we had continued to accept so many people, and the lease revenues have had some challenges. And so we began a wait list October of 2024. That wait list is fairly long now. We're up over 300. I will say that there has been no vetting done of that wait list. I can't tell you how many of those people would actually qualify based on income. Those are just people who have simply expressed an interest, and we have added them to a wait list at this time. And then getting to some of that lease revenue, we had, over the first 8 or so years, had about 6 leases that were our income that was subsidizing this program. In the past year, we've lost 2 of them. T-Mobile ended their lease with June 2025. That was about a $63,000 a year lease. And this past January, Dish gave notice that they will not be renewing their lease. They've paid through this year, but they will not be paying again on July 1st when the lease would be up for payment again. That's about a $51,000 a year lease. The slide says $59,000 because they actually have been subletting a second lease from AT&T, and there's a revenue sharing component that the city gets of about $650 a month, and we have lost that actually as of January. So we've lost, $4,000 for this year and the full almost $8,000 next year. So we have been losing revenue on a program, as of kind of earlier this week, we were at 724 customers. This is kind of a very simple, just kind of breakdown to show you how the program is structured for expenses and revenue. There are staff expenses internally that have a lot to do with the annual renewals that we deal with and the mailings. Sonoma Can, that partner agency, is involved with re-verifying information. Their costs have been lower in the past year or so because we are not adding new people. So if we were in a phase of adding new customers, they would be a lot more involved with the financial class and a lot more income eligibility verification. And then the bulk of the expenses for this program is just simply the subsidy on people's bill. And then on the right there, the revenue just kind of shows you how we have a number of different towers. T-Mobile looks expensive there, but that's actually 2 different locations that I've combined into just one number. And yeah, where you see that Dish and that Dish sublease, those we will not have available next year. So we have been obviously spending more than we've been bringing in. And it'll make a little more sense when you see this graph, because here's kind of over time. You can see in those early years, the lease revenue was much higher than expenses. And in 2019, that's when we upped the subsidy from a 50% to a 100%. So between FY19 and FY21, you start to see those expenses really accelerate. That's that 100% subsidy. And also with COVID, we just really got a lot more applicants during that time period. And so things started to really change there in fiscal year 21, where the lease revenue wasn't keeping up with the program expenses. So we can see that for our current year, FY26, we're going to spend more again. And then for FY27, that's a pretty accurate projection of where I think our lease revenue is going to be, just about $300,000. So I wanted to talk about some options and get some feedback from the board. Here you see an orange line at the top. That shows what would happen if we did nothing for the next 2 years. Revenue would go up ever so slightly. There is some language in the leases that they go up a little bit each year. The fixed fees continue to go up. And so if we did nothing in FY29, I have a little circle at the end of that orange line, and that's us completely running out of money, and the program would end at that point. Then I have sort of 3 alternates that would allow the program to either be sustainable or buy us more time. There is the green bar, which shows what would happen if we dropped the subsidy to 75%, we would continue to spend a little more than revenue, but the H2O program does have about $300,000 right now of fund balance, so spending a little more than revenue is okay at this time. We also have what it would look like if we dropped the subsidy to 60%, which is very sustainable. And then that purple option is where we would not only drop the subsidy to 50%, but the additional point there would be we would look to add maybe 50 people from the wait list. It has kind of a slight V shape to it, because if we tried to add 50 people in the next year, we would see a huge spike in our staff costs, which also have to come out of program expenses to verify, contact 50 people from the wait list, have them go through the financial program, do some version of the water audit. So we would see a big jump in staffing costs in that first year that we would hopefully not need in future years. So those are some options, and I've kind of explained them here. So I think at this point, that kind of concludes my presentation, and wanted to hear from the board any questions or any direction. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess my first question would be, do you or your staff have a recommendation for any adjustments to the program?
My recommendation would be to go to the 75% subsidy. I think that I've heard from real estate that they are confident that, maybe not confident, but they think there's no, not even think? 50-50 now. Okay. I still think that we have some carryover, which we want to spend, and I still think that provides the most subsidy to families and buys us time. So I would recommend the 50% or the 75%.
And that 75% would entail no additional participants in the program, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Board member questions, comments? Board member Mullen? Oh, go ahead, board member DeWitt.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that presentation, and I just wanted to say that I think it's a good idea to be a little bit more conservative. The economy may not get better. We may have tougher times ahead. So I would like to see the possibility of going back to 50% and opening it up to a few people gradually and keeping it at 50%. And then just as more folks get the opportunity, it could hopefully cover the cost of the extra work. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member Mullen?
Thank you. Thank you for the update on the program. A couple of questions. You talked about if we went, say, to 75, we're still going to be short on our projected revenues. Where does the makeup come from? And if we spend all of our money and we're still have some expenses, where does that money come from? If we're so hamstrung on where we can use it.
Yeah. So we have about $300,000 that has been carried over from early years in the program when we brought in more than we spent. So we have some runway there. We do lose people to the program because they move away or they self-report that they are no longer eligible for the program. And I would not replace one for one at this time, because I would let the subsidy continue to drop a little bit, and I would hope that our carryover buys us time until possibly some more lease revenue comes along. It seems like the money is there to spend, so I would want to spend it, and then given that I think we could go 3 or 4 years, we would have time to relook at this, to adjust if we needed to lower the subsidy to be completely self-sustaining in the future year.
Second question, relative to the funding side, I understood your presentation and the fact that we're we're limited on using non-ratepayer money because of Prop 218, understand that. So have we looked at other revenue sources such as grant money or just spitballing here, if we get back into a mode where we're in shortage mode, drought modes where we're assessing fines for overuse, could we tap into that money or some of that money as a possible revenue source? Just more than, because the example you cited about some of the telecom companies dropping out of their lease payments and their lease agreements, that could be a trend. And so if that continues to whittle away, are we looking for instance, state or federal grant money, or are we tied into the affordable housing community? Because sometimes those two could actually work together. If someone's in a unit like that, they may also qualify for this program. So I'm just asking if we've explored or are exploring other funding alternatives.
I would have to look into the fine one. I hadn't thought of that one before, if there was some sort of fine that could be used for this.
Because it's technically
Yeah,
not
yeah.
ratepayer money, it's a fine for not following our regs. But
I-
I'm not a lawyer, I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
like to play
No,
one. But
Then, as far as state grant, I know that during COVID, the city did get, I don't, if it was a grant, do you want to explain that one?
Nick Harvey, Deputy Director of Administration. To address a couple of your questions, Board Member Mullen. First of all, I don't believe it would be constitutional under the provisions of Prop 218 to use excess drought. If we go into water shortage rates and we charge more for the money for water usage because of the drought, those would still constitute ratepayer revenues. So we still would not be able to use those funds. Grant programming becomes tricky because, as you're probably aware, most of the time when you go for grant funding, there's a local match aspect. And by default, all of our ratepayer revenues sit in reserves, and the grant match, by its very nature, would constitute ratepayer funding. So that wouldn't work either unless there was special one-time funding that offered 100% grant with no local match. That could be feasible. But I also did want to address that I have a member on my team, Nicole Doratinsky. She's an attorney, and she works very closely with our legislative outreach efforts. And there's been several pieces of proposed legislation over the years. None have been successful so far, but it's known as LIRA legislation, or low-income ratepayer assistance. And so they're basically exploring possible changes to state law that would allow some use of something other than non-ratepayer funding, or in our case, the lease revenues. It would technically free up some revenues to be able to use for these, for low-income subsidies, but the way the current law is structured, there's still no provision for it in the law, but lots of proposed legislation coming across our desk over the years that, and if we sign on to one of those, and advocate for it, and we see it coming, we'll certainly keep you apprised of it. But right now, it's kind of a non-starter. There's been no successful legislation that would otherwise free up revenues for these purposes.
Thank you for that. But just to clarify my original question about if we got into an environment where we have to fine ratepayers that exceed whatever allocation they have based on per capita or whatever it is, it's a fine on top of paying a higher rate. So, and I recognize the lawyers would have to weigh in on that, whether that's part of the 218 formula or not, but it was strictly a fine. It's not a higher rate. It's a fine on top of the rate that you pay for your.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of legal nuance in that, and I certainly can't speak to it, but you know, when and if the time comes that we implement those charges and we want to explore options, we could certainly have those discussions. But off the top of my head, I can't really speak to the specifics of that, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Deputy Director Schiavone, you had something?
Chair, if I may, I was just going to add, Board Member Mullen, as Deputy Director Harvey mentioned, they will and do continue to look for different options, and we can certainly we can check with our team and with our legal team to see if it is something that's viable, and really what the constraints might be on that.
Vice Chair Arnone?
Thank you. Obviously, one of the, you have to look at revenues coming in and expenses going out, right? So part of our expense in this program is the vetting of the people that are applying for it. And I guess that causes me to wonder whether or not, I mean, I know in the housing side of things, we do a lot of vetting of Section 8 applicants. And it's a pretty extensive process that's already in existence. I wonder if there's an opportunity for some economies of scale or transfers of responsibility. My assumption is that cell tower revenue wouldn't be available to the housing authority because that revenue comes to the water department. But I don't know if the housing authority has other forms of revenue that are not subject to Prop 218 restrictions. And I guess I'm just asking whether there's been any discussion about whether we can get some synergies out of working with housing.
Yeah, and I can't speak too specifically to housing's processes because I don't understand what they do, quite frankly. But we have had discussions about possible internal review of income limitations or income qualification, but we've kind of shied away from that with this program. One, because of the legal complexities required of, asking people for income verification, record retention requirements related to what we get from customers, and just overall privacy. And also, I think we wanted to work with Sonoma Can because they're so plugged into the community as a non-for-profit. They have the built-in capabilities to vet customers, and also it just demonstrates that a third party is doing the vetting and that there's no implicit bias on our part in terms of who gets accepted to the program and who doesn't. So I think more than just a financial aspect, a lot of it is just internal controls, for lack of a better term, segregation of duties to ensure ongoing program integrity.
One follow-up question, talking about additional sources of funding, and I'm sure Jason's not in the room, so I can say this. How about a general fund transfer? I mean, I see smiles but no answers. Okay, thank you. Enough said.
Other board member questions? Board Member Badenfort.
Oh, I'll make it quick. Thanks so much. Just related to Vice Chair Arnone's comments, many programs require that an applicant qualify for another program that has the same thresholds and criteria that we are seeking to meet, and require proof of qualification for that program. So just on his economies of scale on qualification and staff time. Because the program has more demand than we have room, I think it becomes quite important to be thoughtful about how are enrollees cultivated and selected, and how long are they served? It sounds like it's a first come, first serve. Is that how folks are selected?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And once you're in the program, you are mailed a questionnaire every year, and it asks some questions about your household size, if it's changed, and if your income has changed. And if you respond and your income has stayed the same, you continue to be in the program. So that's, 720-something people have gone up to now and have already gone through that, and now they're just in the yearly cycle of renewing.
And so it sounds like there isn't a time limit on how long they can be in the program for.
Correct.
And I certainly don't intend, I'm not trying to redesign the program here today, but it just keeps striking me that as there's a financial and a funding question, especially if we're thinking about making a recommendation on a percentage change on the benefit itself, and the sustainability of it all, with so many people on the waiting list, it's obviously a very important benefit, a rare one, I think, in the world sometimes. And so if we have many more people than we can serve, with fairness and whatnot in mind, I think it becomes just really important to be deliberate about our criteria about the program, that in if it's a first come, first serve, then my next question as a program professional, right, is, well, did everybody have the same opportunity to know about it? Because you essentially have this block of people who have this great program and this great benefit, and very few people afterwards that can access it. So in the event that the program becomes looked at again, I would hope and I would support, in addition to making sure we do everything we can to keep it sustainable, to really think about, if we just continue to have the same people on there, who does it prevent from also accessing that benefit? Is it wise to think about a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year timeline so that other folks and other customers can benefit from it as well? I know that's a lot. I didn't mean to redesign your program. It just keeps striking me that there's a lot of people on a wait list. And in the event that some redesign of some of the criteria and the structure of the program is happening, I think it's a good opportunity for that. Thank you.
Those are very good points. Board Member Wright.
One question I have, and then I'll give a comment, is do we know why T-Mobile wants to move? I know from working on those tanks for a long time, there was always, we have a lot of conditions and so forth. Did they just build a tower somewhere else, or is this a trend for the industry?
Do you mean Dish?
Pardon me?
Do you mean Dish? Dish is the one that's
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got confused. Dish, yeah. Why did Dish want to move? Oh, here comes our real estate.
Yeah, I'm going to have Jill Scott with the city's real estate group come speak to that.
Good afternoon, Chair Galvin, board members. I'm Jill Scott, the city's real estate manager. So just to clarify a couple of things with you, we are working on Verizon going into the Dish location, but as a lot of you are aware, these are extremely complicated telecommunication contracts, and we have the best of intentions to get that one in there and to have an additional one coming forward, but we never know until the last minute, and it takes sometimes years to get these together. So we're hoping to have more, and that's what Kevin was referring to, but I would feel uncomfortable relying on that at this point. It feels like it would be better to come back in a year and say, hey, we got a new lease and now we have more money, than to tend to say for sure that that lease is going to be put in place. To your question about T-Mobile and Dish, T-Mobile was up at R5, which was in up on the hill in Fountain Grove, and it was burned in the 2017 fires. They continued to pay through that whole lease period, even though it was non-operational until the end of their lease. Then they looked at the location carefully, and in this right now where the location is very small space. They need more space and decided to go somewhere else. That, as you know now, we are looking to find a larger space to rebuild that tank, but it wasn't, the timing just didn't work for T-Mobile. And so they just continued their lease at the end of it. The Dish one was never built out on Sinead. They were bought out by someone else, and they decided not to go forward with the build out and continue. That is the location where our team is working on putting Verizon in, but it's just not complete at this point.
Thank you. Well, yeah, my feeling is I agree with what most people have said here, is I would like to open the field to more recipients if possible, and maybe a lottery even, or something to make it more fair, because 300 people sitting out there for years, I mean, that's a lot. So anyway, I don't know if 60% or 75% or any of that kind of stuff is due, but the idea would be, the strategy would be to try and get more people that want to be in the program, which on the surface appears that you have to drop that percentage from the 60% or 65% or something. Anyway, that's just my thinking. Thank you.
Yeah, it would seem to me with the excess that you are sitting on at the moment, if you were to drop it to 75% or even 60%, you would have the ability to add participants and still have the longevity of the monies that you have available to keep the program going for at least a couple of years, if not more, and see what happens with new leases and new sources of revenue. Am I missing something there?
I could go back and run some numbers to look at that. I would be concerned about the staff costs involved in adding new people. I think that we're talking about tens of thousands, if not $40,000 between Sonoma Can's cost and increases to staff time charging to this program to be going through some version of a lottery, calling people on the wait list, asking them to send in verification, waiting for that verification to come back, finding out that they're maybe not qualified, going to the next person on the wait list. It's hard to predict how much staff time it would take to bring on board, let's say 50 people. We did 700 just as they came in over 8 or 9 years. And the reason I kind of have arrived at these numbers is because, 5 years ago, internal staff charging to this program was $40,000 a year. Now, in my slide, our staff costs are about $6,000 a year. So by just being able to maintain current people, the staff time we're spending is very minimal. And so adding new people and maybe keeping a 75% subsidy, I'd really want to look at where does that jump our year one cost, and we would definitely eat away a lot more at that $300,000 carryover before seeing it, where we would, because then 50 more people at 75% is still, more in the out years also. But that's a number we can definitely run.
Well, I think that would be important for this board to know, what the options are and what the potential costs are. If you can determine what the staffing expense is going to be based on adding 50 people or 100 people, and when the subsidy is either 50% or 60 or 75, that would give us a little more comfort level, I think, in trying to give some direction to staff as far as any adjustments to the program. Board Member Mullen?
Mr. Chair, I agree with the direction you're referring to as far as going back and circling the wagons and seeing exactly these scenarios, 50, 60, 75, and see, because I also agree with Board Member Badenford's idea about we have all these people waiting in line and there's no hope for them. Now, it would also, we could maybe look at our revenue projections and see, but even if we go to 50, it's still 50%. Now, it's not 100, but it's still 50%. And if we can add 50 more people, it's 50% for them. So I'm inclined to at least look at the lower rate if it means we're going to add more people. And then we revisit this in a year and we see maybe the revenues have stabilized. Maybe we found new revenue sources. Maybe there's some grants we've come, and we get a better understanding of the staff impacts. But I'm a big believer in going in that direction, but where we have all the information, and then we can say, okay, we project at 50%, we can add 50 people. If we go to 60, we can only add 35, or whatever. But I think then we make an educated choice about where it is and try to get more people engaged and empowered on this thing. I think everybody wins with that.
Vice Chair Arnone?
Yeah, I agree with Board Member Mullen's comments. But one thing that I'm very uncomfortable with is funding ongoing programs with reserves, because that's not a sustainable source of funding, and this is supposed to be a sustainable program. So any option that involves reliance upon revenues to make the graphs work, I would be very skeptical of. So I'd like to budget based on what we have, because it's good to have reserves, and using them all up, and then what? So that's my comment.
Board Member DeWitt?
Yes, I want to concur with the statements from Ms. Badenfort, Mr. Mullins, and Mr. Ornoni. I think going back to 50% and looking at your numbers and bringing back the different possibilities to us so that we can keep a big reserve in a sense to be ready. I'm not confident in where our economy is going on the national or the state level, so helping these people is a good thing. Helping some more get off of the wait list is an even better thing, but we have to keep the program alive also. That's what, to me, is really important. Thank you kindly.
Very good. Assistant City Manager?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to ask a question about the possibility of creating a model that's based on fiscal stability, right? So you've got an existing revenue model, and you've got a program that actually fits within that model moving forward based on projections. And then coming with a supplemental recommended program that relates to utilization of the reserve or the excess that you've got. That may be a way that the board can start to evaluate how we're going to create a model that is consistent moving into the future, but then also gives them options on how they may look at the utilization of that excess $300,000. It may be a temporary benefit. It may be to the point of leaving it in reserve in case something more tragic happens with the economy and we want to increase a subsidy for a period of time, but potentially coming back with sort of those two different optics could benefit the discussion moving forward.
And I would just, excuse me, I'd just follow that up by saying we're very much looking at the reserve, the consumption reserves as like a one-time stopgap funding. We're certainly not relying on that, having several $100,000 available to roll over each year. That's obviously not sustainable, especially in light of the fact that each year when we have sewer and water rate increases, each subsidy goes up by that same percentage, the cost of each subsidy. So it's certainly our objective to keep this program as a going concern. We're hoping to rely on reserves to get us to the next phase, whether that phase be, hey, state legislation is allowing more funds to be available to cover program costs, whether or not more lessors of space on Santa Rosa's property come in and supplement revenues. But I do want to make it very clear that our plan is to keep this program in whatever it may look like, given the financial constraints, a going concern. And we can certainly course correct and adjust strategy as we go based on the economic realities.
Any other board member questions or comments? All right, we'll open it up for public comment on item number 4.1. If you wish to make a comment, please move to the podium. See no one rise. Do we have anybody on Zoom? I'm assuming not. Very good. That'll take care of item 4.1. Thanks for your presentation. We'll look forward to getting some further updates from you. So we have no minutes to approve. We have one staff briefing. Acting Director Schiavone.
Thank you, Chair Galvin. Introducing item 6.1, Fix a Leak Week. Lisa Cuellar, our Water Use Efficiency Coordinator, will be presenting.
Hello and good afternoon, Chair Galvin and members of the board. My name is Lisa Cuellar. I am the Water Use Efficiency Coordinator, and today I'm going to share just some updates related to the upcoming Fix a Leak Week and some activities planned around that week, and highlight some water use efficiency programs we offer to our customers. So National Fix a Leak Week is sponsored by US EPA WaterSense. It's an annual event. It happens this year. It happens to fall between March 16th and the 22nd. It's an event that is intended to educate or draw attention to the fact that US households collectively waste 1 trillion gallons of water due to leaks per year. And so the week offers or encourages folks at the regional level to help empower customers with skills and knowledge so they can go back and try and mitigate some of that waste. Santa Rosa Water Department has always taken local action to promote Fix a Leak Week. We do so by various forms of outreach to our customers. We direct customers to content on our WaterSmart homepage that lists best practices on how to identify and fix leaks. We also include leak-saving tips in our water bill inserts, social media outreach, and our local newsletter. The Water Department staff participates in a couple events too that help promote this opportunity to identify and fix leaks. That's the DITAB Challenge, which I will get into in just a second, and we also have a presence at the St. Patrick's Day 5K race. The annual DITAB Challenge is underway. Essentially, it allows our customers to request DITABs. These are tabs you toss into the tank of your toilet, and it will indicate if your toilet is leaking or not. Folks request the tabs, we mail them out to customers, and then they follow up by reporting the results to us and have an opportunity to win a $25 gift card. Annually, we see about 300 customers participating in the challenge, which is pretty good. And this is a collaboration with the Sonoma Marin Saving Water Partnership. So the website listed on the screen there is where you can go to fill out a form and request the tabs be mailed to your residents. We also, the Water Department, plans to have a present at the St. Patrick's Day 5K race. That's slated for this a week from Saturday on March 14th. The race kicks off right at 10 a.m., Courthouse Square. There are details and registration information available on our website. The Water Department will be there to engage directly with customers, to provide resources, including things like the Practical Plumbing Handbook, DITABs, but also to try and garner some more interest in our toilet direct install program. We are currently in phase 2 of this program. This phase received funding through the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, about $1.8 million. We have a 55% match. The goal is to install 2,500 toilets. We have until September to do that. I'm happy to report, as of February, we have approximately 2,100 toilets either installed or in the queue to be installed. So just a little more than 500 or 400 left. So if anybody is interested in obtaining one, you can use the QR code on the screen to get information about the program. The program itself, as I mentioned, this is a second phase. The first phase included commercial accounts, but second phase is just focused on residential. Overall, the funding was used to replace any toilet that flushed at 1.6 gallons or higher with an ultra-high efficiency toilet at ranging from 1.1 to 0.8 gallons per flush. So it's really reducing flush volumes by about half, if that is significant. When the plumbers, since this is a direct install, plumbers who have been vetted and contracted with the city go in, they do all the work at no expense to our customer, and they also survey the house to see if there are other opportunities to install low-flow shower heads, other low-flow fixtures like bathroom faucets and kitchen faucet aerators, things of that nature that are highly efficient. The program is first come, first serve as well. The good news is that the first leg of this program, which was funded through Department of Water Resources, they had some earmarked funds, $1.5 million to be exact. That phase is completed. In total, we were able to install almost 2,000 ultra-high efficiency toilets, both at commercial and residential accounts. 328 plumbing fixtures were installed, and that is estimated to save our service area 57 million gallons of water per year, which is significant. Last but not least, I wanted to emphasize that the water use efficiency section is always providing opportunities for our customers to expand their knowledge base on how to be more efficient at their homes and businesses and properties. We do have an event coming up. It's a webinar on April 7th. In light of the warmer weather and the longer days, we know folks are getting ready to turn their irrigation systems if they haven't already. The Master Gardeners of Sonoma County partner with us to offer these webinars. They'll be talking with folks about how to optimize their systems to help improve landscape irrigation efficiency. And the event, registration for the event is open to anybody. It's listed on our events page. Our Water Smarts Center website has information about the event where anybody can go to register. And that's all I had as far as efficiency updates go, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have some.
Thank you, Ms. Cuellar. I will tell you that I participated in the first phase of the toilet replacement program, and it was very easy. The plumbers were great. The scheduling was simple, and obviously I'm saving some water, so that was the other benefit. Yes, Board Member DeWitt.
Thank you for the nice presentation. I was curious, are there financial requirements? Are there like eligibility if you got money, you can't do this?
Thank you for participating, Chair Galvin. And to answer Board Member DeWitt's question, there's no financial criteria that would allow you to qualify. There are two qualifying criteria. One is you have to receive your water service from the City of Santa Rosa, and the second is you have to have a toilet that flushes at 1.6 gallons or more. Yes.
Board Member Mullen.
Thank you. Again, thank you for the update. And I, like Chairman Galvin, am also a participant in the toilet replacement. And I've dealt with a lot of plumbers over my lifetime, and they were the cleanest and sharpest and most efficient of any plumber I've ever had inside my house. So I'm very happy with the program and the group that you're working with. I do have a question about our outreach. I just happened to be driving down the street when the kids were coming out of the fairgrounds after the science fair yesterday. And my grandson was one of the classes that was there, and he got interviewed on KSRO radio because he did something on smog with some of and the kids love it. And I could just see them if we looked down the road and did something during Water Awareness Month, and maybe here in the plaza or over at the courtyard or whatever, and invited the schools there. That's the next generation of water users that we need to tap into and get them excited about when they walk down the street and see somebody's sprinkler running over. They know what that means, or they see what those little dye tablets do when there's a leak. The kids would love that. And maybe we can look at doing something like that and inviting all the kids from the school districts around our service area, and I bet we would get a great turnout.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment and agree with the points you've made. I do want to acknowledge that our energy and sustainability section under the Water Department, they have a really robust outreach program that does focus on K through, I don't know if it's college level, but it's definitely K through 12, and they do offer programming and educational opportunities for children. It reaches, I think their numbers total in the thousands. I don't know how many exactly, since I don't work in that section, but it is really impressive. I think there are opportunities for water use efficiency and energy and sustainability to continue to collaborate. I was recently contacted to participate. It's a STEM-type program hosted at the city level for students, and I was invited to present information on water use efficiency, and I'm happy to participate in that event. We also have a community-facing Water Smart Expo that will happen sometime in June. We do have booths that target youth. We have like a pin making station and some other freebies for kids that does get a lot of foot traffic with children. So any way we can partner with the community and reach younger community members to promote efficiency, I'm fully on board with that and appreciate your comment.
Other board member questions or comments? All right, we'll open it up for public comment on item 6.1. If you wish to make a comment, please move to the podium. See no one rise. Thank you again for your presentation. We have 2 items on the consent calendar, items 7.1 and 7.2.
I'll move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Arnone, seconded by Board Member Badenford to approve the consent calendar. We'll open it up for public comments on items 7.1, 7.2. See no one rise. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Board Member Wright?
Aye.
Board Member Mullen?
Aye.
Board Member DeWitt?
Yes.
Board Member Bartholow is absent. Board Member Badenfort?
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone?
Aye.
And Chair Galvin?
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the consent calendar passes unanimously with Board Member Bartholow absent.
Thank you. Item 8.1 is a report item. Acting Director Schiavone.
Thank you, Chair Galvin. Introducing item 8.1, Sonoma Water 26-27 Water Transmission Budget and Rate Increase. Nick Harvey, Deputy Director of Administration, and Jake Spalding, Finance Manager for Sonoma Water, will be presenting.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Chair Galvin, members of the board. Again, Nick Harvey, Deputy Director of Administration with Santa Rosa Water. I'm here to introduce Jake Spalding with Sonoma Water today, who will present the proposed water transmission budget for the fiscal year 2026-20. Geez, I know how to talk, I swear. Fiscal year 2026-27 water transmission budget. Before he begins, I want to quickly review the annual process of approving the proposed budget and rates and explain where we currently stand in the process. After developing the budget and proposed rates, they are then brought before and discussed by the Budget Subcommittee of the Technical Advisory Committee of Sonoma Water in conjunction with staff from Sonoma Water. The process of discussing the water transmission budget and the proposed rate increase with Tax Finance Subcommittee was concluded on February 19th, where the subcommittee voted unanimously to recommend the proposed budget to the full Technical Advisory Committee, which also voted in favor of the rate proposal at its meeting this past Monday, March the 2nd. From here, each contracting agency will work with their representatives on the Water Advisory Committee to coordinate how their agency representatives will vote for the purposes of the WAC's recommendation to the Sonoma Water Board of Directors, which is scheduled to take place at its April 28, 2026 meeting. This afternoon, at the conclusion of the Sonoma Water presentation, we request that the board make a recommendation to City Council regarding how it should direct its WAC representative, Councilmember Natalie Rogers, to vote at that meeting. As a reminder, it's ultimately up to the discretion of the Sonoma Water Board of Directors to make the decision on how they will proceed, including setting the rate increases that will ultimately be implemented. All votes leading up to that point in the process are simply recommendations. Santa Rosa Water's current rate structure is reintroduced the pass-through of Sonoma Water's wholesale rate increase. After factoring in an anticipated 1.1% increase in water deliveries due to growth, as well as Sonoma Water's proposed 8.21% increase to the wholesale water rate, we estimate our fiscal year 2026-27 water purchase budget to be about $23.6 million. This figure exceeds our fiscal year 25-26 water purchase budget by approximately $2 million. After considering the pass-through rate increase in addition to the 6% rate increase Santa Rosa Water is implementing, we estimate the monthly impacts to the average family of 4 in Santa Rosa to be approximately 6.4% or $5.33 per month. And I will be touching on that aspect, the estimated ratepayer impact, a little more later on in the presentation. And with that, I will gladly hand it over to Jake.
Thank you, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jake Spalding. I'm the Financial Services Director or Division Manager for Sonoma Water. Good to see you all again. And I'm going to try not to mess up saying this because I also trip over it all the time, but I'm here to present Sonoma Water's fiscal year 26-27 water transmission budget and rate proposal. So real quick, I know you all know this, but just a little bit about our system. You know, Sonoma Water, we have several different functions. We do wastewater services, we do the flood control in the county, and then we also do wholesale water supply. So we supply 9 cities and districts, ultimately serving about 600,000 residents in Sonoma and Marin County. We have a pretty robust system, and you can see some of the infrastructure that we have on the slide here. You know, it includes things like tanks, the collector wells, other wells that we have in Santa Rosa Plain, booster stations, as well as the aqueducts. And speaking of the aqueducts, we have 3 main aqueducts. We have the Santa Rosa Aqueduct, the Petaluma Aqueduct, and then the Sonoma Aqueduct. And each one of the water contractors is served off of one of these aqueducts, and per the restructured agreement for water supply, they pay the rate that is associated with that aqueduct. This community is obviously served from the Santa Rosa Aqueduct, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Sonoma Water, we engage in an annual budgeting process to meet the operations, the maintenance, and the capital needs of the system, as well as to comply with any regulatory requirements and demands that we have. As Nick was mentioning, you know, we have a pretty transparent and collaborative process that we go through, and we're proud of that. You know, each year, as he mentioned, we take it to the TAC Ad Hoc Budget Subcommittee in mid-January. Then we all work together before finally bringing it to our board for adoption in late April. Did want to say thanks not only to Nick, but also to Jennifer and to Peter Martin for their participation in this. You know, we really do get a lot of value out of all this collaboration, and so just wanted to, you know, say it helps us create a better budget that we bring to you each year. And I also do appreciate that the TAC voted on Monday unanimously to support this rate increase. A tiny bit more about our budget. You know, there's not just one budget and rate. It's actually multiple funds, the types of which you can see on this slide. And each one of them has its own budget and rates, and then those are combined to make the rates that each one of the contractors pay. And since not everyone's served by the same aqueduct and not everyone pays for the same things, different contractors pay different amounts. We talked about this last year when I was here too. You know, there's several challenges that we are facing. These are not all unique to us. You know, similar to the city's water system, you know, we have aging infrastructure. As things are getting older, you know, it costs more to operate and maintain them, as well as, you know, we have increased capital improvement projects in order to replace the things that are at the end of their useful life. We are addressing this in several different ways. You know, we have an asset management program that we're developing. We're also currently underway with a 20-year comprehensive plan to look at all the needs of the system, as well as, you know, how we can best sequence them and what the costs are so that we can plan them out over the 20-year time horizon. Also, in addition to that, the last couple of years, you know, we have continued to see rising operating and maintenance costs. You know, everything from supply chain constraints, new regulatory demands, as well as, you know, increased labor costs, increased costs for certain goods like chemicals that continue to go up. We also have somewhat of a unique challenge, which we talk about every year, which is, you know, our rate is fully volumetric, 100% volumetric, which means that when deliveries are going down, it puts additional pressure on the rate increase, even if the budget is remaining steady. And then lastly, I forgot to put it on the slide here, but, you know, we are vulnerable to natural hazards. I know we've talked about that in the past, you know, particularly earthquakes, but also fire and flood. And so we're also always looking at resiliency projects and mitigation projects to help solve those challenges. I'm not going to go through all of this too, but did just want to highlight that even though we have all those challenges, we have had a lot of achievements in the recent past in collaboration with the water contractors as well as other partners. You know, kind of common themes that you see on the slide here are things like drought resiliency, water resiliency, education programs for the youth in the community, as well as compliance with the biological opinion. And through all of this, you know, we're always seeking additional outside funding to help offset the rate increases for the local customers. And you can see a couple of the projects on there that we've gotten outside funding sources for. So what do the rate increases look like this year? After looking at all the needs of the system and going through this collaborative process that Nick mentioned, we're proposing rate increases between 8.21% and 8.97% on the three main aqueducts, with Santa Rosa being the lowest of those at the 8.21%. Did just want to point out, the cost of a gallon that moves through the system is still at about a half a cent per gallon. So it's still relatively down there. It did increase slightly, obviously, since the rate went up.
Yeah, and when it comes to the rate increase, since we're reintroducing the pass-through, it's very important to us in terms of communicating to our ratepayer base what we think the estimated impacts to the typical Santa Rosa water customer looks like. So our, average household in the city of Santa Rosa is a household of 4, and if we look at the average summer water use, they typically use 8,700 gallons of water per month. Tier 1, the water cap would be, or the sewer cap rather, would be 4,400 gallons. And so we would anticipate $2.29 increase in Tier 1 usage over the summer for the typical household, $2.58 increase for the Tier 2 usage, and a 46-cent increase on the fixed charges. And if we bottom line that comes out as an aggregate of $5.33 average increase on the average family of 4's water bill, or an effective rate increase of approximately 6.4%.
So just a little bit more about what's in the budget, what's making up this requested rate increase. On the capital side, I think Kent has been in front of the BPU to give a presentation recently. Good. So I'm going to stay very high level here because he gave you a much better detailed description than I can do. But we have about $3.55 million in hazard mitigation projects. We have been very successful in the past at getting offsetting grant revenue for hazard mitigation. We've gotten about $12.6 million over the last several years from FEMA for this purpose. We're looking at always getting additional money there. There is a little bit more uncertainty than usual in getting federal dollars, but we do have 2 requests in at the moment for additional hazard mitigation dollars that Cal OES is recommending to FEMA. In addition to the hazard mitigation, the capital program includes resiliency projects. I've got the 4 that we are requesting additional appropriations for in this budget up there. Some of these are very large, multi-year projects. That water treatment system modernization project is a multi-phase project that's going to take a decade to implement. So this is really just seeding the initial design and some of the right-of-way work for that project. If you combine those 2 categories together, the total capital program, capital project budget this year is $10.9 million, which is down from the prior year, and I'll talk about that in a future slide. On the operations and maintenance side, there's about $48.8 million in projects. I've listed just some of the higher priority ones on this slide that are a sample of what we're doing. You see up there some of the things I already talked about, the asset management program, the planning comprehensive plan, as well as things that I know we've talked about in the past, but our tank maintenance program and our tank rehabilitation program, which is coating all the tanks in the system to extend their useful life. Also, in addition to that, is the emergency inventory procurement. This is something that we highlighted in collaboration with the water contractors a few years ago, that we really needed to have the supplies on hand if we have a big seismic event, so that we can quickly fix the aqueducts. So we are still continuing to procure additional supplies so that we can store those and have them ready when disaster hits. On the sub-fund side, these funds are used for things like the biological opinion, the urban water management planning efforts, as well as water conservation efforts. This year, we're proposing $10.1 million roughly in sub-fund costs. This is an increase from prior years, and that increase is primarily made up of biological opinion costs, and that's because we did get issued a new biological opinion in April of last year. We are starting to see the costs associated with those requirements show up in the budget, and we're still also fulfilling our requirements under the original BO for the mile 6 of Dry Creek. So when you combine all these together, you get a total budget of $78.4 million. And you'll note there it's roughly $3.6 million less than the prior fiscal year. That is being offset by about $14.64 million in grants, use of fund balance, and bond proceeds. You can see if you look at the line items that the capital project line is going down quite a bit. That is not an indication that we have any less work we're doing this year. In fact, our team has never been busier, I don't think. It's just that we have several multi-year projects that we had to have the funds available this year to award, and those are planning on being awarded in March and June of this year. So we didn't need as much for next year's budget. Real quick, just to show you where our costs go, and this changes slightly year to year. Operations and maintenance is our biggest expense. It's coming in at about 62% this year. Capital projects is our second largest expense. It's about 14% this year, and then the sub-funds and debt service round us out. I was just mentioning how the capital projects one came down this year, so this did get slightly skewed this year. Usually capital projects is a bigger piece of the pie, and operations is a little bit less. So just as a primer on how we calculate our rates with the fully volumetric rate, basically what the restructured agreement for water supply says is that we take the cost of operating and maintaining the system, and we divide that by the amount of water sold. And the amount of water sold per the restructured agreement needs to be the last 12 months of actual water deliveries or the last 3 years annual average. This year, the 12-month figure is the lower of the two, and it's at 41,776 acre feet. And I just note that is actually about 1.5% less than the number used in the budget last year, which is one of the reasons that even though we are proposing a lower budget, you're still seeing a rate increase. This slide just shows you a little bit more of a breakdown so you can see all the components that go into that rate increase. I would just note on this slide too that the discretionary charge line on there, this is a line item that the contractors have discretion to put on themselves to help build fund balance up for the aqueduct capital funds. It acts as a rate stabilization tool. This year, Santa Rosa and the other contractors all elected to keep their discretionary charge static, so that has not changed from last year's budget. And so what does the future hold? Sonoma Water, we have a 20-year long-range financial plan that we update annually. We have programmed in future needs of the system and what we think it's going to be, and there's a lot of assumptions in this as well. But what we're showing future rate increases are going to be is in the 7.4 to 7.9% range over the next 5 years. That incorporates things like all the capital projects we have on the long-range financial plan, future bonding, as well as growth both in O&M expenses, which are estimated at about 6%, as well as a 4% escalator for capital projects to deal with inflation and rising costs. And lastly, every water system is different. They have different treatment needs. So this is not meant to be a total apples to apples comparison, but just looking at straight cost per acre foot, Sonoma Water, we're at about $1,515 for the Santa Rosa Aqueduct. Is still very affordable when compared to the other wholesalers in the area. So key dates, as I mentioned and Nick mentioned as well, the Technical Advisory Committee met on March 2nd and voted to unanimously support this. We are going to take it to the Water Advisory Committee on April 6th, and then we'll eventually go to our board on April 28th.
Okay, and with that, it is recommended by the Water Department that the Board of Public Utilities consider Sonoma Water's proposed fiscal year 2026-27 water transmission budget and proposed rate increase, and by motion, make a recommendation to City Council regarding Council's direction to its Water Advisory Committee representative for the April 6, 2026 WAC vote on Sonoma Water's proposed 2026-27 water transmission system budget and rate increase. And we are also happy to take any questions.
Thank you both, gentlemen. I just have a curious question on your proposed rates, Mr. Spalding. You've got for the discretionary charges $34.90 for Sonoma as opposed to $10 and $11. Is there some reason why they're doing more of a discretionary charge than the rest of us?
Yes, so there's different use on each one of the aqueducts. So Santa Rosa and Petaluma both benefit from the fact that there's a lot more water pumped through their aqueduct each year, so you're building that $10 up on a much larger number of deliveries. Sonoma Valley actually doesn't have too much water pushed through there. It's generally around 3,400 to 3,600 acre feet a year. So even though they're charging themselves $34.90 a gallon, they are actually not building up fund balance very quickly. And that it's much harder for them to build up enough money to implement a project.
So that was obviously a conscious decision that they've made to try and put more money away for
It is, and they
improvements.
did lower it a couple of years ago when some of our rate increases, the higher ones, first came on. They do plan to actually increase that, is what I'm told, once they have the capacity to do so.
Okay, thank you. Other board member questions, comments? Board member Mullen?
Thank you. I made this comment the last time you appeared in front of us. I'd like to repeat it because I think it's worthwhile. I'm old enough to remember in another life when I would attend the WAC and the TAC meetings, and the political climate back then was way different than it is now. It was sort of like a tenant-landlord relationship rather than the collaboration that you're obviously doing now. And I want to congratulate you and the staff at Sonoma Water for making that transition, because it's very refreshing to see unanimous votes come forward on actions that are important and widespread as this. But congratulations to the Sonoma Water staff and to our staff for doing their part to make this not an easy decision, but certainly well-informed when you can see the collaboration that builds it. So thank you for that.
Remember DeWitt?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. And I appreciate what Mr. Mullins just said. I've often attended many of those meetings myself. One of the difficulties we see ahead of us, though, is that the prices keep rising. We don't know if we're going to get people to use less water because we actually pay a lot of money to conserve. We're spending money to convince them to conserve, but then when they conserve, it costs more. And a regular person with a family of 4 out there doing what they do, you might not see $5 a month as a big deal, but they see it. And I do believe that you need to have a better public relations campaign, perhaps, to get the word out to people that we understand the financial difficulties for some families, and we're not just constantly raising these rates without an awareness of how some people do have difficulties paying the bills. If our economy gets worse in the next couple of years, this will be an even more important matter for you to accurately assess the situation to the customers out there so they know, hey, yeah, we're glad you're conserving money, but we're still going to ask you to pay more. It's one of those things that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, so you guys should do a damn good job in explaining it to us. Thank you kindly.
Well said. Yes, board member Wright?
Just one simple question. Thank you for the presentation. Are your deliveries going up, going down? Are they flat? How's over the last, say, 3 years? It's been a non-drought period.
The last 3 and 5 years, if you use those years as a starting point, it skews the data quite a bit because it was 2 of our lowest water delivery years on record. If you go out to 10 years, we've on average been having a decline of about 1.5% a year. I mean, if you look back just 20 years, we were over 65,000 acre feet of water deliveries a year. So the trend is down or steady. You know, there is quite a bit of development going on in the community. We're hoping that we're going to see some increases, but we just have not seen that come through as of yet.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other board member questions or comments? If not, I'll look for a motion for the recommendation that's been put before us.
Okay, I'll move that the, that the Board of Public Utilities, recommend that the WAC, it's kind of having these vague recommendations and the thing make it hard to put it together. Anyway, I recommend that the WAC representative for the City of Santa Rosa approve the budget, the Sonoma water budget.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Wright, seconded by Board Member Mullen. We'll open it up now to any public comments on item 8.1. Seeing no one rise, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Board Member Wright?
Aye.
Board Member Mullen?
Aye.
Board Member DeWitt?
No.
Board Member Bartholow is absent. Board Member Badenfort?
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnone?
Aye.
Chair Galvin?
Aye.
And that motion passes with 5 affirmative votes, with Board Member DeWitt voting no and Board Member Bartholow absent.
Thank you again, gentlemen, for the presentation.
Thank you.
We'll move now to item number 9, which is public comments on non-agenda matters. If you wish to make a public comment on the non-agenda matter, please move to the podium. Seeing no one rise. We have no referrals. We have no written communications. I believe we have 2 subcommittee reports. We'll start with Board Member Badenfort for the Water Conservation Subcommittee.
Certainly. The Water Conservation Subcommittee met on February 11th, where staff provided an overview of the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, which will be presented to the BPU for consideration and council adoption in May and June. The plan is due to the state by July 1st. We had a great meeting, by the way. Staff presented the 2026 Water Use Efficiency Award nominees and reviewed the upcoming Water Awareness Month activities. There were 4 nominees. They were unanimously approved, all fantastic projects. Approved by the subcommittee, and we presented their awards at the May 12th council meeting. And finally, staff presented information on the State Water Resources Control Board's implementation of new regulations banning the irrigation of non-functional turf. It was a illuminating conversation. HOAs, commercial, institutional, and industrial customers will be required to self-report to the state their compliance with the regulation in the next few years. The city is required to update our building code by the end of this calendar year, and significant outreach to affected customers has begun. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe Board Member Wright, you have a report from the Budget Subcommittee.
Yes, I do. So the Budget Subcommittee met on Tuesday, March 3rd, to do the first review of the Water's preliminary proposed fiscal year 26-27 water, wastewater, regional, and stormwater, and creeks operation and maintenance, capital improvement, and debt service budgets. The subcommittee will be reviewing the budget proposals again on March 18th to consider recommending the budget to the full board for consideration prior to the BPU study session, which is scheduled to take place on March 19th, at the March 19th BPU meeting.
Thank you. Any other subcommittee reports? Any questions from the board on those reports? We'll open it up now to public comment on item number 12. If you wish to make a comment, please move to the podium. Seeing no one rise, that'll take care of our subcommittee reports. Board member report, Vice Chair Arnone.
Thank you. I was privileged last week to attend a celebration that I think is worthy of celebration, which is that for the last 12-month period, the Santa Rosa Water Department has had exactly 0 solid sanitation, sanitary sewage overflow, SSO, has had 0 overflows in 12 months, which is unheard of. I think the metric is usually the average is around 7 or 8 events per 100 miles of pipeline, and we've had exactly 0 events in the entire city. So it was an opportunity after the expanded water supply meeting to come in and just, I think there was some cake and some, Council Member Natalie Rogers was happy to give some comments, and I said thank you to everybody, but it was, I think it's worthy of celebration and recognition that this water department has protected the ratepayers and this community from the damage that would flow from, not investing in the infrastructure like we do. And that's why we have so few overflows, because we keep the system maintained. And I just was overjoyed that we could recognize the people that are on the front lines making that happen.
Thank you, and I appreciate you being in attendance at the celebration, and congratulations to our staff because they're out in the field making sure that everything is operating correctly and that we don't have any overflows. So any questions from the board? Yes, Board Member DeWitt.
This is another comment. Right now, up until 5 o'clock, there is a forum on housing going on with Generation H over at the Becoming Independent site. And I was just looking at some of the documents I have from the past. Back at the turn of the century, it was pointed out that as California's population was growing from above 46 million people, there was a great concern, will we have enough water? And this forum today is about bringing in even more housing, getting the affordable housing. I think it'd be a really good thing if any of us could be there to listen to the ongoing discussions about bringing in more housing and making sure we have enough resources to take care of that. I understand population growth is going to continue, and we need to have better conservation in order to have enough water for all the folks coming in. Hope you're there. Bye.
Thank you. Any other board member questions or comments? We'll now open it up for public comment on item number 13. If you wish to make a comment, please move to the podium. Seeing no one rise. Acting Director Schiavone, I believe you indicated you did not have a report.
That is correct. Thank you, Chair Galvin, for the opportunity, but we do not have a director's report today.
Very good. So there's no public comment necessary on that, no non-report, in which case we have completed our agenda for today. So we will adjourn the Board of Public Utilities meeting and see you in a couple weeks.